Hello all. Thank you for being here right after lunch. We know it's always the hardest presentation to attend, so we'll try to keep it interesting for you. I'm really honored to be here today with Dr. Leah Martinez, who's going to be sharing with you the advantages of board games from the cognitive perspective. So very different from a lot of the other presentations you've seen today. So I'm Melanie Watier. I'm the current Vice President of Purchasing and Marketing for Asmodee Canada.
And I'm Dr. Leah Martinez. I'm a project manager in the sustainability team at Asmodee. And I work on research, promotion, valorization, and support at Asmodee. And before that, actually, I did a PhD on board game and cognition.
Perfect. So as a leader in the board game industry, we have an opportunity and we really have a responsibility, that just changed, to support the legitimacy of games in the industry. So as everyone in this room knows, games are more than just entertainment. They are tools that connect us, that teach, and that support well-being and development. For those of you that had the opportunity to attend Jason and I's presentation yesterday morning, we talked about the sustainability strategy at Asmodee as a group. The research side is, what you're going to hear today is the research side and how that tangibly plays into the impact that we want to have. So why are we investing in research? Why it matters? Until very recently, there was very little scientific research dedicated to board games specifically. Much of what we believed was based on personal opinion, it was based on assumptions, and it was based on anecdotal evidence. Along with the entire global community of researchers, we see the need to have something a lot more tangible and to change the conversation around board games. So by engaging this dialogue around legitimacy and data-based evidence, we're including designers, professionals, distributors, vendors, retailers, and of course the players, so that we can have a different lens by which to share the experience. In the world of games, much of the conversation is around the games themselves. It's around the mechanics, it's around the IPs, it's around the universe of that game, not so much the experience of the player and the impact of those games on the players. So what you're going to hear today from Leah is how games are influencing cognitive development. She'll be sharing her research as well as the research of two others, Annick Pensy, who is in the room with us today, but would be able to respond to you in French more comfortably after the presentation, and another researcher that she'll be presenting. So welcome, Leah, and I will pass it along.
Thank you, Mel.
We'll take the tea. Yes.
Thank you. Well, hello again. Thank you very much for being here today. What a good warm-up we had with Mandy. So let's talk about Gaming Lab first. So Gaming Lab is a dedicated program at Asmodee to support game research. It has been created in 2018 by Asmodee, but also a French nonprofit. We have three main missions. The first one is to support scientific research on board games. The second one, to disseminate all the knowledge we gathered on board game, to disseminate board game science, And the third one is to organize or support conferences on board game science, such as we do today at Canada Plays. For all this mission, we are supported by a scientific committee composed of about 20 scientists, researchers, or science experts coming from 7 different countries. They help us on the ethics and neutrality of the program. They help us each year on our call for research project. They help us to select some projects based on their quality, and then we can support and fund these projects. So actually, since 2019, we have supported more than 25 projects, so on any topics in any disciplines, coming from human-computer interactions to sociology, to educational science, to psychologies, and all of these were related to board games. So for example, last year we had 59 applications from 19 countries, and we funded more than 35,000 euros. For the events, since 2019, we have supported more than 30 events. We are present at game fairs, such as Canada Place, but we also support some researchers that organize themselves their science conferences. And our last topics were board games and sustainability, RPGs, access and accessibility, and players with learning disorders. We have many other topics. And for those who were there last year, we had a great presentation from Drs. Gray Atherton and Liam Cross on board game and autism. It was a much appreciated conference. This is why we're here again today. This time to talk about board game and cognition, cognitive functions. So to give you some context, what about cognition? What are those cognitive functions? Cognitive functions are the mental abilities that enable us to perceive, understand, and interact with our physical but also social environment. So they include the attention skills. Today we will especially speak about the visual spatial skills and the visual spatial attention, which is the ability to find some visual information in the space. And these functions also include the executive function. These are really, really important. Executive functions are our mental abilities that enable us to adapt in new situations. They include the inhibition, the ability to give the right answer whenever there are distractions around. The working memory, the ability to remember some information during a short amount of time. The flexibility, the mental flexibility, so the ability to be flexible between different types of information, and the planning and organization, which is pretty clear. So these functions are very important, and we will come to it in the presentation. And especially the executive functions are very important for learning. Academic learning first. If you have good executive functions, you will have good reading and mathematics skills. But they are also important for cross-disciplinary learning, such as social learning, social interactions, collaboration, teamwork, etc. And it's really a correlation. If you have good executive skills, you will have good learning skills. And if you have good learnings, it will help your executive skills. So just to have an idea, and because you are in a food coma, so I want some warm-up here again. Who's here convinced that board games are good for learning? You can raise your hand. Oh my God, you're all convinced. That's good. So, well, we have to make a difference between what we strongly believe and what research can show. So, in general, main audience believe that playing board game is related to attention, thinking, learning, etc. There is also this common thought that playing chess is related to general intelligence. But when it comes to research, our objective is to bring scientific and objective evidence of the relationship between board games and cognition. So we use systematic observation, experimental testing, objective analysis to really bring the proof, the evidence of what we can really say on the relation between board game and cognition. For now, what research shows and what research said is that when you have frequent leisure activities, such as sports, music, video games, or traditional board games, such as chess, it is positively related to cognitive function. There are some scientific reviews and articles on these topics, so you can remember that frequent leisure time strengthens cognitive skills over time. However, when it comes to modern board games, so in our research world, modern board games are the non-traditional board games, we have fewer studies on the topic and on their relationship to cognitive functions. Here you can see most of the articles that have been published, so it's about 10 on the topic, compared to the hundreds of references on video games or traditional board games. This is why we need more studies on this topic, and we support research on this topic. So for now, these studies show that playing board games can have a significant positive effect on certain executive functions, especially in young people. And today, I will present you 3 research that have been supported by Gaming Lab on this topic. I will tell a few words about my PhD. I will then present you the studies of Jorge Moya Higueras on board games, cognitions, and learning, academic learning at schools. And I will finish with the study of Annick Peltier, who is here again, also on board games at school and academic learning. So let's start with what is going on after one unique board game session. So I've conducted a PhD funded by Gaming Lab between 2020 and 2023. I've worked on different topics, but today I really want to focus on what is the effect of playing a board game session on the cognitive state. The cognitive state is really how our cognition is working right now. It's like our cognitive mood, let's say. So during my PhD, I went to more than 5 schools. I've met more than 800 students. I've conducted 50 playing hours, 80 testing hours. I've met students that were aged from 11 to 20 years old, so it's like, let's say, older teenagers and young adults. And I've used a method that is called the pre-test, post-test method. So I've met with the students. I've made them completed some cognitive tests, which are like mini games on computers that help us to have some cognitive assessment. So it assesses the accuracy, but also the reaction time of the student. After that, they completed whether a board game session. So in my studies, they played a spot it like game. In French, it's called clac clac. Maybe it's just clac here, yeah. Or we had a control group that only watched a short documentary video. And after that, they completed the same cognitive test so that we can compare whether there was an improvement after the board game session. So what we observed. First, I focused on the visual spatial attention, the ability to find some visual information in the space. And I've noticed that compared to the video group, the students that played board games were 14% faster after playing the game. So here we can see that playing a spot-it-like dynamic board game can have an impact, can boost immediately the visual spatial attention more than watching a video. And what we have also noticed is that on this improvement, whether you play with other players or whether you play alone, the improvement is the same. So it's probably what you do in the game. Here you have to find some visual information on the card that help to boost the visual spatial skills. So the boost in visual spatial attention is the same when playing together or alone. However, when it comes to inhibition, we have different results. We can see that after playing the game, the students were faster, but they made more mistakes. So maybe a dynamic game can lead to some impulsivity. So here, what we can see with this kind of results is that we had the first evidence, and we are proud of it because it's really a first of its kind study, that one board game session may be enough to influence our cognitive state. And this is true right now in older teenagers, but we could conduct this kind of study with many other peoples and with many different games. So now we may ask, okay, what's going on if I play longer, if I play more frequently? And we come to the study of Dr. Jorge Moya Higueras on board game training or board game intervention at schools and cognitive skills. So Dr. Jorge Moya Higueras and his team are based in Spain, in the University of Lleida. We have funded through Gaming Lab one of their studies in 2021 on executive function improvement with modern board games in children at risk of social exclusion. But actually, this study was part of a series of research on the impact of a board game intervention, a board game training at school on cognitive skills and learning in children. So here again, some figures. They went to more than 20 schools. They have met hundreds of children aged from 6 to 12 years old. They have conducted hundreds of playing hours and testing hours. And based on all of this work, they have published 6 articles, which is huge in our domain because they have done this in like a few years. So we were really proud to work with this team. So here again, they use this pre-test, post-test method, but instead of only playing one board game session, the children, the students had a training. So at school, during about 7 weeks, they played 1 hour per week board games. And they played modern board games. In this huge table that I will give you some details, you can see the improvement of the children. So first, in the board game group, you can observe that after the board game training, children had improvements in their executive skills, the visual and verbal working memory skills, the flexibility, and the inhibition skills. They also had some improvement in their academic skills in reading, general mathematics, and especially calculus. But if we observe what is going on for children that only attend classes, they also have improvement. This is logical because, children just grow older, so they have a cognitive development. So if we compare these two groups, these two columns, we can have like an estimated cognitive value of the board games. And based on this kind of results, we can have a conclusion like playing board games at school during a few weeks can help children to adapt to their cognitive development, especially on the executive skills, but also on some academic learnings. So a board game training has little to medium, which is great, positive effects on executive and academic skills. This was some results in, let's say, neurotypical children coming from a different background. They were from urban and rural schools, but the researchers also worked with children with special needs. So in one study, they made children at risk of social exclusion. They also conducted, this pre-test, post-test method. And they noticed that after a board game training, these children had better executive skills on the working memories, the flexibility, the inhibition, and the planning. They also noticed that the children had better emotional and behavioral regulation. So they were better to control, to manage their emotion, but also their, let's say, conduct at school. But here we are missing from a comparison to a control group. And they also met in another study children with ADHD. And they noticed that children that classically attend classes could have more conduct problems along the years. They could have more arguments or fights. But after the board game training, children had fewer conduct problems. So here a conclusion is that board game training also has positive effects on executive, emotional, and behavioral skills in children with special needs too. Finally, they conducted a study in which they compared different types of board game training. So children either had a math game training or a memory game training. We can notice that in the math game condition, the children had improvement after the training in visual working memory skills, but also in mathematics skills such as number operation and number ranking skills, while in the memory game condition, they had improvement, especially in the number operation, number ranking, but also the problem-solving skills. And if we compare all these results to the control, the class group, we can conclude that math game training has a positive effect on executive and mathematics skills, while memory game training has positive effects on problem-solving skills. So here, what is important to remember is that we have a first study that compare what are the differentiated effects of different kinds of board game. And this is important because we had an interview with Mandy a few days ago, and she asked us, okay, what is going on if I play different type of board game? And my answer was, if you play a spotted game or if you play like Pandemic, it is absolutely not the same activity. So the main hypothesis is that the effect will absolutely be different. And here between mathematics games and memory games, there are not too much differences, but we can see differences in the impact. So I think as a researcher, this is very interesting. So a main conclusion based on all these results is that cognitive training based on modern board game can support the development of executive and academic skills in children. Now we may ask, okay, but what could be the best condition to make sure that we can observe these benefits and these positive effects? And we come to our last studies on board game training and metacognition. I will come to metacognition just after. And before I will present you the Je Métacogite study conducted by Annick Pelletier over there. Can you raise your hand, Annick, so that people can see you? So, Je Métacogite is like a pun meaning I meta-think. It has been funded by Gaming Lab in 2019. So, the exact title is Je Métacogite, Self-Regulation and Metacognition at School. And so, it is on the impact of metacognition and board game training on cognitive and learning skills at school. We had the tremendous chance to support this study in Canada. It has been conducted in Quebec. So we had this chance for several reasons, but I will give you 2 reasons. The first one is that it's much more easier here to conduct study in the schools. The Canada is so open to try some different study and methodology at school, while in European country it's much more difficult. So it's really nice to know that here in Canada we can have some results on what's going on when children play board games. And the second reason is that we had access to all the expertise of Annick, who is an educational therapist, and educational therapy or remedial teaching is really a domain of expertise that is developed in Quebec and that is not very developed in France or in European countries. So first, let's talk a little bit about metacognition. What is this? So metacognition is the ability to think about thinking, to learn how to learn, to do cognition on your own cognition. So it follows 3 steps. First, you plan. For example, let's play a game. Then you monitor, okay, is my strategy working right now in the game? And then you evaluate, okay, why did I lose or why did I win this game? And you start over. In the Je Métacogite study, Annick went to 8 schools. She met hundreds of children. She worked with teachers to do this. She met children that were aged from 9 to 10 years old. The method was still a pre-test, post-test method, but here the children had a training of 25 weeks. This is huge and great. And this is something that is too difficult to conduct in European countries. And they compare 4 groups of children. First, there was the board game training, during which the children had board game sessions. Then there was the metacognition training, during which the children learned how their brain worked. Then there was the meta plus game training, during which the children learned how their brain worked and applied this learning in board game sessions. And finally, there was a control group with children that classically attended classes. In this table, you have the first results of the study. This has not been published yet. I can present it to you because Annick already presented it in a French conference last year. So for the 4 different groups, the researchers I forgot to tell you that Annick worked with a French university on this study with 2 amazing researchers, Dr. Amélie Lubin and Dr. Céline Lanoé. And so Céline and Amélie helped on this data. And she found out that in the 4 group, there was no effect on metacognitive and academic learning skills. However, in the Meta plus Game group, they found out some great impact on the global executive functions, the flexibility and the planning skills especially. They also found out that teachers perceived that children after this type of training had better behavioral control and regulation. And above all, they noticed that children themselves perceived that they had better executive skills. So they had a better perceived self-efficacy, which is great because it's related, to the self-confidence. So here we can imagine that teaching to children how their brain works and how they can apply it in board games is good, after all, for their well-being. They also noticed that after the board game training with only the board games, the children had better flexibility skills. And finally, they noticed that with the metacognition only training, they had better planning skills and better self-efficacy. So here a conclusion is that a cognitive training based on metacognition and games has the strongest impact on executive and learning skills in children. So a conclusion could be learning how to learn through board games seems to be the best way to support executive skills development in children at school. So some words for the conclusion. What the Game in Lab research can say for now is that one board game session may influence cognitive state in older teenagers. Cognitive training based on modern board games can support the development of executive and academic skills in children. And learning how to learn through board games seems to be the best way to support executive skills development in children at school. But these are only first evidence. So some ideas and some words for perspectives. We absolutely need more studies in this area. First, to confirm our first results. In research, we have a process called the replication. The more we replicate our methodology, our studies, and the more we replicate our results, the more we can be sure that we can have this type of conclusion: board games are good for cognition or learning skills. We also need more study to make sure that the effects can last in time, that it's not just one-shot effect, and that the benefits are also working in everyday life. You know, if we can see some benefits is in only cognitive tests, it's not enough. We want to make sure that children can benefit from board games in their life in general. And finally, we also have to understand why board games can be beneficial. Is it about the gameplay, the social interaction, the material that is used in game, the frequency of play, etc., etc. So we still have a lot to do in this domain. Well, thank you very much for your attention. Merci beaucoup. You can find all the information about the studies on the Gaming Lab website. You can also find our last conferences on our Gaming Lab YouTube channel. And so you have here some leaflets, and these leaflets are also on the Canada Plays app. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Leah Martinez. But don't run away. No, you're okay. Do you mind to... No, take your time. So, we have time now for questions, des questions. Anybody? I'm sure you have, yes, I know some burning questions here. I'm going to come to you. All right, keep my workout. All right, here you go.
Do you have any tips or suggestions about how we as retailers could enact some of these suggestions or be able to work with parents and local schools to expand the cognitive reach that these games can have?
I think a good answer here could be the Je Métacogite program, because, you know, it's all about saying to the families or to the teacher that they can teach to the children, okay, this is how your brain works. So this is what is going on with your neurons, etc. So you are growing up, you can learn, you can even learn faster than adults, so this is cool. And they can enact this learning through board games. And so this is really all the work that Annick is doing. She built all of this program with, you know, some videos. She has some materials on the OptiNeurone clinic website. You have all the information on the leaflet. So I think the first step is to explain to the family that board games can be a good tool for this teaching about brain. And then the second step would be to help these people to put the program in place. But maybe this is not your work. I don't know where the limit is, you know.
Thank you.
Okay, more questions. Come on, I know you've got some burning questions. Don't make me ask, because I'll have a ton.
Just to add maybe to that, on the retailer support side, through ENIC, we do have a very extensive classification of board games that identifies which executive functions that they facilitate and that they impact. So it's a tool that's available to retailers. It's something that exists in Canada, that was built in Canada. So we can make that available to you, no problem. And it's on the Optineuron website as well.
And I wanted to jump in and say, too, my brother's a social worker in Montreal, and some of the games that I received from Game in Labs, he's been using them with his patients, and he has said to me, Mandy, this is amazing. Can I have some more? Because it's doing really well. So just want to say, if no one has tried this, or if you're in that space, it's well worth looking into. More questions? Wonderful. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. I'm going to come back, okay? I was too fast. There you go.
I might have missed it. It's related to what was just discussed. So that legend, I guess, of how you can determine what's good for what, is that going to eventually be maybe on the box? Like a simple system design, we can put it on the box, we can use it to sell. Like, yes, that's coming?
It's been considered. What happens right now is, depending on production, it will vary by country. So anywhere that we have production of a game that's going to Everywhere that we have a game that's going to multiple different countries, they are not necessarily using the same type of classification. At this point, the best that we can do is making sure that the information is available online. It's the easiest tool. There are things that Anik does actually with retail stores, where she will help actually go into the store and help organize the store based on functions.
Okay.
So that is something that happens more as a one-off, but it's not necessarily at the point of being on the box yet, unless
Standardized.
it's the Access Plus line. And at that point, the Access Plus line does go through and really identify which function is being worked on.
Related, is there institutional support, I guess, like for education and whatnot for retailers? Like if we want to try to target those kind of sales?
There are pedagogical sheets that exist that really help explain the use of the games and how to introduce them if they're being used in a classroom or in an educational setting.
Thank you.
There is, if I can add, there is really a big question of have an agreement of classification of board game based on the cognitive function that they engage. And for now, I really think that the work Anik is doing is the best stuff you can find.
Do you know of any research and what that research might say about how playing board games, either traditional or modern, might affect or help seniors maintain cognitive abilities?
Absolutely. So for now, research are more on when seniors were used to play board games all along their life, it's really good for the aging. We also have some studies, but it's more based on traditional board games because it's easier with seniors and especially in institutions, we can say this, to use traditional board games because they like it most. And so in this institution, some studies show that when they have the board games training, with this pre-test, post-test method, it helps on the cognitive skills, but also on some of the symptoms sometimes of, let's say, disease, I don't know how to say, neurodegenerative. Dementia, thank you. So yeah, actually there is a main hypothesis in the literature, in the scientific field, that say that board games or let's say leisure activities should have the best impact in children because they are still under this cognitive development, but also in seniors because sometimes they can have this cognitive decrease or decline. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Any more questions? Excellent.
To your knowledge, has any research been done about students, rather than simply playing board games, becoming the designers or makers of games?
Oh, no, I don't know about that. This is an interesting question, but sorry, I don't have an answer on this. I don't know, Misha, if you have some... No?
Okay. We'll bank that one and
Yeah,
next time.
sorry, but
Something
it's
for
naughty,
you.
sorry.
Good question, though. No, that's very good. Oh, thank you. I keep missing the back row. I got to pay better attention. There you go.
So our store's just been open for about a year and a half, and we are already going into daycares and schools in our community because we have a really big focus on children. And one of the things I'm wondering about is, do you have any, like what I'd love to do is there's a few schools who in our community who are really already thinking that way, but I'd love to write something up that I can send to the schools just generally, not about specific games, but that says, you know, here's why games are good, here's what the data shows, here's how we could work with you. And so I'm wondering if there's anything that exists like that. I see you nodding.
Actually, we're working on it. So for now, yes, you have the leaflet. This is like a first try. We wanted to have something, a document that you can keep after Canada Plays. But we're really, this is my work actually as a project manager to work on this kind of document and to do some research, valorization, and promotion. So here I wanted to give some details, but yeah, the objective would be to give some guidelines, you know, and to so that people can understand what are the potential of board games, but that we can also give them some guidelines from our experts on how they can use board games, because it can be easy to go to schools and to do our test and to make children play, but it's much more difficult to organize a program with teacher, and that teacher has to use the game, etc., and to buy the game. So yeah, this is something we are working on, and just keep in touch with us and so that we can exchange.
Okay, fantastic. That was great. Great question. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I have one. It's about language. So, for those who don't know, I am very English, very anglophone, okay? But I am learning French, and I work in French occasionally. So, is there any kind of connections with like language and games? And I'm also on the neurospicy spectrum. So I got a few things going on against me here. But I know there are a lot of students or children who, you know, struggle. Coming from out west to moving out east was a big change. So in your studies, was there any correlation or any discussions about language in games? And or would that tie into skills like memorization and that sort of thing?
So I don't think there is a specific study saying if you play these games, you will have a benefits on a different type of language. But we can notice that we have seen some benefits on the reading skills, but the children didn't play some games that were on reading, you know? Right. So an hypothesis is that when you play board games, you will have better executive skills, and these executive skills are really important for language, for example. Absolutely. And another thing that I can say is that in the video game research, they observed that people that played online with players speaking different languages had better, I don't know how to say that, foreign language skills or things like that. And so I guess that when you play board games, you necessarily have some social interaction. So it can be a good tool to make people talk in different languages together. So I guess there is a lot of potential here.
Right. No, this is fabulous. As someone who was learning French, and I've played in a lot of Milborn, so I'm looking for other options. Yeah. Oh, here.
I don't know if this is helpful to other game stores, but we actually partnered with a local college, and we do a monthly literacy board game day, and it's free. Our store gets paid, actually, through funding from the university. And I think, like, again, we're a new store. Our games room is only 500 square feet, and we had to turn people away at the last one because we didn't have enough room. So they have to sign up in advance, but we are getting people from China and Colombia and like all over the place, and they're all coming and speaking English together. And we do a lot of games where their narrative, like they have to talk, and it's been really great. So I don't know if anyone's interested in that. Feel free to talk to me about it.
Yeah, this is cool, and this is here that we see the importance of having a connection between what research do, but also what you do in the field. This is so important. Yeah,
Thank you. No, that's great. No, please don't let me interrupt you.
The question is specifically to the neuroatypical study, specifically with ADHD. Do you know if the students that you were studying with ADHD were medicated versus pre-medicated? Or Or was there two groups, a medicated group and an unmedicated group?
So this was not a study I conducted. It was conducted by Dr. Jorge Moya Higuera. So I don't want to answer something that would be wrong. So I think you have the right references on the leaflet. So I suggest that you go to their article so that you can find all the details on this study, because I don't want to say something wrong about this, and because I don't remember what was told in the article about the medication.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah,
a difference.
it's really
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, or even just a comment? It's okay. You don't have to ask a question. Let me make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay. Oh, wonderful.
I should be fine without that.
There you go. Tommy's got you.
With a bit of a background with education, you have the idea of kids need to scaffold learning and stuff like that. Do you think that would also go with games? If kids play the same games over and over and over, is that going to still trigger the same growth, or do you think that they need to scaffold their learning so that it goes forward to something else that's a little harder, spot it to like a Waldo or something like that? Not in that order, but scaffold the games the same way you would scaffold a curriculum.
Yeah, this is interesting. I guess Annick would have a better answer than me on this, but so there are a lot of things here. So first, when you play, let's say, the same game, you could see some improvement because you are learning the game, etc. But in the end, if every day or in every training you are playing exactly the same game, I guess you will find like a plateau. I don't know how to. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, a plateau.
Works for both languages.
Okay. And so here again, an hypothesis is that the most different games you play, the better it will be. But once again, on the research side with modern board games, we don't have precise results on this. But Annick, maybe you can have an answer about this.
I'm sorry, I'm not fluent in English. En fait, oh, OK. Alors, je peux te répondre en français. OK, là, on n'a pas fait de recherche sur ça, mais sur le terrain, qualitativement, quand l'élève, par exemple, s'améliore, ben, on va augmenter le niveau de jeu, mais plus qu'on augmente, plus qu'il s'améliore. Et plus qu'il s'améliore, plus qu'il est capable de transférer en mathématiques, en lecture, en écriture. C'est ce qu'on observe.
Okay, so Melanie, are you okay to do the translation? Would be better, thank you.
So what Annick shared is that in the work that she's doing, what they do is once the student has reached the right level for the first game, they will elevate the difficulty. And what they end up seeing is that not only is the student able to elevate their skills at that difficulty, but they're able to transfer their skills as well.
All right. Do we have any other questions? If not, I'm going to jump in. Okay, it's me. All right, so I'm going to give you a little break, Dr. Martinez, and I'm going to make sure if you could answer. Access Plus, who's familiar with Access Plus, the games? Okay, good, so there are a few of you. Are we going to be adding any more to the line?
Thank you for the question. So Access Plus is adaptation of games from Asmodee catalog, working with experts on the healthcare to adapt the game for people with cognitive disabilities. We have launched 4 games for the moment, Dixit, Spot It, Timeline, and Cortex. And we wanted to have a complementary range. All those games are tackling different cognitive function. So we wanted to provide this for the people in need. And right now, we are looking at the other opportunity. We are aware and open for discussion with the healthcare and people who are using them to try to find the right one. Access Plus development takes time because we need to interact with the experts to try the game with the patients and gather all the feedback to make the right adaptation. So I think we can expect another game in the next years, not in 2025 for sure, but we are open of discussion of people who want more of that range.
Amazing. That's really great to hear because I know a lot of people have used them. And another story for you. I have a friend, her mother was in the hospital, she had a stroke, and these were some of the games that we brought, and a lot of them are tactile. So that kind of brought her to life a little bit, and I did end up giving them my copy, but it was very useful. So just something to think about if you haven't seen these games, to at least entertain it, take a look at it, maybe suggest it to someone you know. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, that's okay. If you don't have any now, maybe later it comes to you. Can they, maybe if they see you, or is there a specific information that's there, they can go here, ask the questions?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, I think that's it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Yes.